Mike, what gives you the belief that you have more spines in the Senate than in the House? And will this bill have to go back to the House afterwards?
The answer to the second question is yes. The answer to the first question is whether you call it, I'm not going to say that we necessarily have differences in our spinal columns between the House and the Senate. But the Senate was designed. George Washington described the Senate, as he conceived it, as the cooling saucer, the place where the hot tea would spill out and would be given a chance to cool. We are a smaller body, and because we are smaller, we're able to go about things a little bit differently, with more deliberation. And we're undertaking an aggressive review process of the Affordable Care Act and figuring out how to repeal it.
Who's leading?
And how to move forward.
Who's part of your team?
There are 13 or 14 Republican senators who have been actively engaged in the process. A handful of others frequently join us for meetings. And we have an aggressive,
are you guys the leading
robust
voices?
Discussion. Well, yeah, there are 13 or 14 voices that are actively working on it right now. But there are a lot of others who are also actively involved. And we're trying to figure out how we can come to consensus on something that actually works. My point to this group, and I haven't gotten a lot of pushback on this, is that our central focus has to be coming up with something that brings down the cost of health care. And that we have to recognize you cannot bring down the cost of health care with the Obamacare regulations in place. It cannot happen.
And is there somebody appointed to maybe do some pushback against people like Bernie Sanders, who say thousands of Americans are going to die as a result of this?
Yes.
I rarely hear that pushback.
There is somebody appointed to do that, and he's the President of the United States and all Republican members of Congress. I mean, look, we're under no delusion here. We understand this is going to be a partisan vote. Sadly, we will not get the support of a single Democrat, not in the House, not in the Senate.
No matter what you do.
No matter what we do. If it involves repealing any portion of Obamacare, we will not get their support. We will have their overwhelming opposition, which is why we have
the support of the president.
Yes, we will have the support of the president because the president wants to repeal Obamacare.
I mean, he said, I don't think he necessarily cares about the details of how it's happening, right? Like, I mean, he supported the House plan very, very strongly. And as you point out, there are a lot of weaknesses in that. I think he wants that win, so I think he would approve anything. But I mean, if you need all 52, or you need 50 senators, as you said, you're not going to get, the 48 are completely off the board, right, to start. So you're going to have to please the Susan Collins of the world, right, to get this done. And that's why I think a lot of people are pessimistic.
That is reason for people to be skeptical. It is not reason for people to lose hope. And there is a big difference between those two things.
No,
look,
history is reason for people to lose hope.
Sure. I haven't had hope since like about 2006. So.
Yeah. So
I've long been inspired by something that Winston Churchill said, that the American people can always be counted on to do the right thing after they have exhausted every other alternative.
Yes, it's true.
And
it's true.
You know, look, we've given this Obamacare thing, we've given this whole progressive thing a nice long college try, a much longer try than it deserved. And all other alternatives are pretty much off the table now. So we're going to return to what works.
Is there an argument to say, look, we can get rid of, this might not be perfect, we might not get rid of all the Title I stuff, but we can get rid of some of the taxes, we can get rid of the mandate, we can get rid of some of the really bad things from Obamacare. Let's take what we can get.
Sure. I mean, look, who's going to disagree with an argument that says take what you can get? And one of the things that you hear over and over again in Congress, too, is that don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And all that's true. But you also shouldn't let the adequate be the enemy of the good or of the better.
Yes.
What we're trying to do is say we can do better than the House bill did. The House bill, as much as I commend my efforts, the efforts of my friends who worked really hard on that issue, it didn't do enough. It didn't do nearly enough to bring down the cost of health care. And that's why the big fight is going to be about that in the Senate. All right. It's a fight I intend to win.
Talking to Mike Lee, senator from Utah, one of the good guys in Congress. We're talking to him about his new book, Written Out of History. He's going to be joining me for a full hour on television as well. It's a great new book about the founders and the forgotten founders, the ones that have been written out of history. We'll talk to him about that coming up. Also about impeachment and the things that are being kicked around now in Washington. What is his point of view on on what has been happening with the president. Since Mike is such a constitutional scholar, he'll be able to put it into perspective for us.